Welcome to Between the Shelves, the premier Sayville Library podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm very excited today, not because it's spring finally, but because it's National Library Month. So I brought in some library heavy hitters this episode to talk about why libraries matter in 2023, what librarians actually do, and some of our favorite library experiences. So before we get into all that fun stuff, I do have some business I need to take care of at the top of the episode. First thing is we're going to try something new with the podcast. The What Are You Into segments that we've been doing in the past are now going to be a bonus episode that comes out next week or in between the regular episodes. So what does that mean for you? It means you get twice as many episodes. Hooray. Woo-hoo. And it means that the episodes we are putting out are going to be a little more focused. So there you go. That's the first bit of news. The second is we are eventually soon going to be launching a webpage for the podcast that's going to be on our website. More details on that to come, but that website's going to have a detailed breakdown of what we discuss in the episode, and it's going to have links to all the books, the movies, the games, anything we mention in the episode that maybe you thought, oh, that sounds like an interesting book. Well, we're going to have a link in the description right to our catalog so you can check it out right from the library. All right, business is over. Let's get into it. So this week I'm joined by our library director, Jenn.
Hi, I'm Jenn Fowler, Director of Sayville Library. Thank you for having me, Alex.
Thanks for coming. And I'm joined by Jonathan from our Community Outreach Department.
Hey there, Alex. It's great to be here.
I shouldn't say you are the entire department.
That's all good, Alex.
Man of many talents.
And last but not least, I'm joined by Morgan, Head of Patron Services.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, thanks for having you. Our regular listeners have all enjoyed you on the podcast before, so no first-timers. This might be the first time we've had all reoccurring.
Yeah, we're all veterans now of the podcast.
Yeah. This podcast is getting long in the tooth already. We're running out of new guests.
That's right.
So I invited you all here because you all offer a different perspective on libraries. I should mention that I wanted to have somebody from the children's department here today, but they are always swamped and it's hard to peg them down. So we'll get them on a future episode. But we'll try to talk about them a little bit as we go, too. We're not going to forget about the children's department. So I wanted to start off by kind of talking about, why are libraries relevant in 2023? You hear about it every once in a while from people who probably don't come to the library, who wonder, with Amazon and Google, why do we still need a library? So does anybody want to start it off the conversation, or anybody have any thoughts on this?
Sure, Alex. I mean, from the community outreach perspective, for me, we are, or what I'd like us to be, is the cornerstone in our town where our community organizations can be highlighted and then where they can connect with each other. So we do that through all sorts of programs and collaborative partnerships that the Community Outreach Office creates with our community. So things like working with the Sayville Rotary Club and attending their meetings, and then the Sayville Rotary Club helps us by sponsoring some of our programs and getting together with our initiatives that the library offers, doing things like collaborating with the Chamber of Commerce. We're getting ready to have a booth at our Sayville Spring Fest. We're at almost every festival in Sayville and having a library booth there to get the library out together with this community and participate in the life of the community together.
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's something I wanted to talk about myself is, I think a lot of people, their perception of a library is, if they really haven't been to a library in a long time, it's just a dusty old building that has just books and one librarian with their hair in a ponytail and glasses sitting quietly shushing people in the corner. Ooh. And that is not what libraries are anymore. They haven't been like that for a very long time, since like many, many decades and decades ago. So multiple generations ago. Thank you. So I think now currently the library is more about becoming, like you said, a community hub, right, and not only bringing the community to us in new ways, but about getting out to the community too.
Absolutely.
So our walls are no longer
limited
contained
right here
within our actual building. We're going out to festivals, we're going out to farmers markets.
That's right.
All sorts of things. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think the library has a lot to offer, going off of what Jonathan said, where now we have a library of things collection where expensive equipment that used to be or can be unaffordable for some people, or they might be considering buying it and don't want to jump and make the investment, can just check it out from the library for 2 weeks, test it out, see how it works, and then return it. And no money spent on their part, and it's their hard-earned tax dollars that they pay to support our library every year that's going towards other services that, besides having books and things like that, I mean, we all say in our, I think professionally, that we're more than just books, but I feel like that message is slowly getting out to our communities more and more. I think we had the happy birthday signs last year that were a huge hit. I think I have purchased 5 of them now. And they still are constantly like, it is, in the summer and the spring and the fall, it is crazy.
And those are the signs that people can put in their lawns on their front.
Yeah,
Exactly.
surprise people.
Right,
stuff
surprise
like
people.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, the library of things is great. I didn't even think of that, actually, when I was writing my notes for this episode. I personally have checked out so many things from the library. Lawn games, you mentioned like spring's coming up. Yeah. I checked out, what do we have? Cornhole,
croquet.
The Frisbee one, croquet.
Oh, yeah, Can Jam.
And Can Jam, that's what I'm thinking of. But my favorite is Molke, or Molky.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
right. Yes.
Listeners, you got to check that out this summer. It's like a Swedish like lawn bowling game sort of, but like I don't even know how to describe it. It's a really, really fun. Like I checked out every game we had, and that's the one that me and my relatives kept going back to. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we added a few more games to the collection for this season. So we have like a portable badminton net that's coming, and a few other fun things like bucket ball, and spike ball is fairly new as well. So I'm really excited to see. Our patrons are already getting excited. Someone came in checking out lawn games already today, and it's still below freezing at night. So.
Morgan, that is just so cool. I mean, in fact, the last Summerfest that we were at over the summer last year, we actually brought our lawn games out to the Chamber of Commerce. And so our entire lawn game collection was out in the middle of Gillette Park in Sayville, helping our community and giving everybody a great time out with right next to an activities tent. And so, lots of people saw all those lawn games and had a lot of fun playing them. So, yeah. And then they get to see it in action, come back and check it out at the library and bring it to their barbecue.
Yeah, and it's not just games, and we have instruments. We have an electric guitar, a bass guitar, ukuleles.
That's right.
The drawing tablet was the other thing I was thinking of, the Wacom tablets.
Ooh.
So if you're an illustrator and you're interested in getting into digital art, those Wacom tablets are very expensive.
Yeah.
A mini Cricut.
Yeah,
Check it out.
Cricut.
Yeah.
We have a regular size Cricut now too. Heat press, play parachutes.
I think it was 65 items were added over the last year total when we did the stats on that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's crazy.
We have one of the larger collections.
Yeah, in Suffolk County.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't checked it out, really, it's worth looking into. Because sometimes you just want something, you don't want to invest in the money, or you want to try it out before you buy it. Come to the library, see if it's in our collection. For me, hearing you guys talk, I was thinking about, I've been working in libraries for nearly 30 years. Jonathan and I both are the old timers here. And just starting out as a new librarian, I don't even think I could have, and I thought at the time I was pretty forward-thinking person. I don't think I would ever imagine in 30 years I'd be sitting doing a library podcast. I wouldn't even know what that meant. I wouldn't know what a library of things was. I wouldn't expect to go to the library to get a notary. Something notarized. I would not expect to go to the library and meet with a social worker.
Right.
All of these things that the Sayville Library and many libraries are offering now are just, I think libraries are just constantly reinventing themselves to come to the table with something that the community needs at that time, whether it was finding ways to provide services during the pandemic, or going back when Google first came around and everyone's like, we're not going to need librarians anymore. We have internet search engines. Education, we give education to people how to search properly, how to have verified sources.
That's right.
The services for students have just exploded. We offer online tutoring every evening that you can do from home, but that's through your library from K through college level, subject areas, English and Spanish. A lot of people, it's called Brain Fuse. A lot of people don't know about that. So all of these things, sometimes you get to a point where you think, all right, what else can we really do? And lo and behold, there's something else we can do. Like, so it's exciting. It's such an exciting profession to be in because you just don't know what's around the corner. And it's just it's really heartwarming for me to see librarians, how they rise to the occasion and they figure out, what can I do for my community? What can I do for my staff? What can I do for my building? And we're really lucky here at Sayville to have such a great staff. I can say that, and I mean it.
Yeah, and I like that you bring up, like, we pivot with the times, with
Right.
everything.
That's right.
You think about it, like, when the internet first came out, where did most people get their internet access from? The library.
That's right. We were
very
giving
true,
out
Morgan.
email. Everybody had their email.
Yeah, the Suffolk.ny.net.
Yes, the old. Yes, and it was dial up.
Yes,
you
it
could do that.
was.
You could do that from home, and it was free from the library. And now,
That's right.
The modern version of that is we're lending out Wi-Fi hotspots. So
Exactly.
we're very focused on digital access and digital inequities, and just addressing those issues so everybody has access to information on an equal level. And libraries are constantly rising to that occasion.
That's so true, Jen. I think that the library really does its best work when we go out into the community and when we listen. And when we find out what those community needs are, we come back and we've got a lot of fun and very creative minds on our staff. And we say to ourselves, okay, so here's a need in the community. Now, how can the library step up and meet that need? And that's where the magic of what we do, I think, really starts to ignite and it gets exciting. And then we come up with a new service
Right.
that we get to roll out to our community. So it's fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like library staff as a whole, too, have gotten... they were probably always very good at it, but I feel like more so I see now, especially like as in my position, I interact with the public at the front desk, like one of the first people that they see. If I'm at the desk and someone's returning like a library of things item, or they're asking about a museum pass, or they're signing up for a library card, I'm like, well, what did you think of it? Do you have any suggestions of how I could make it better, or things like that? And people are always willing to give good feedback. And then you just take that and you improve upon what you already have. And I feel like we've done such a good job of that over the past 10 years, at least since I've been in libraries.
Very true. Very true.
I think the modern library, or the library of today and where libraries are going to go, is they have to evolve quickly. And I think that's going to be a big part of libraries going forward, is getting feedback from patrons and quickly adapting to their needs as that arises. 20 years ago, maybe longer than that now, Library 2.0 is when the internet and everything started rolling out. Libraries quickly adapted, getting public computers, internet, Wi-Fi, even switching over to a huge new jump in the media from VHS and to DVDs and Blu-rays and everything.
Downloading and streaming.
And then exactly. Now, streaming and Libby and everything is taking off.
That's right.
20 years from now, it might not exclusively be that, but who knows? It could be.
And Hoopla, I can see. I see all the stats on those. Libby is a constant downloading ebooks, and audio ebooks is moving at the highest clip. But the line is set every year, month to month. Even it's very rarely do you see a flat line or a decrease. The increase just keeps going higher and higher and higher for Libby, and for Hoopla as well, which is videos on there, and as well as ebooks. But those services are being used, and it's our jobs collectively to get the word out to the community. Because going back to your point, Alex, in the beginning of it, was a lot of people don't use the library. They think they have a vision of it, and that's fine. That's a quaint little image, and there are women here who wear buttons and wear glasses and sit behind a desk, but they do so much more. And so many people are so surprised, and I know we've all had the patron that comes in and is like, I haven't been in a library. Do you still use the Dewey Decimal System? Shocker, we do. Spoiler alert, we still use the Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
But when I started, and I'm sure when Jonathan started, we were actually using the physical cards, the card catalog.
Yes,
actually
we
was
were.
the card catalog. Now it's an online OPAC, online. What does it stand for again? Online public access catalog.
That's right.
So we lived through that transition of libraries automating. That was probably the first pivot that into technology, was libraries actually becoming automated, and then it just kept going from there and just moving. And when you there's some classes you can take to help you become a library director. And one of the things they ask you to do is prepare your elevator speech. So if you're ever in a situation, or in an elevator or anywhere where you have an opportunity to give somebody the information about your library because they haven't been here in years or they haven't been at all. So that you got to sell that to them. Like, why do you want to come in here? Because you're missing out. And the elevator talk usually should be 2 minutes, right? However long it takes to be in an elevator. It's really hard now to fit it in an elevator talk because there's so many things, right? There's just so many things that we just mentioned. And so we can each have our own elevator talk. Would be completely different what we talk about, and each one would be extremely valuable.
Yeah. So, I feel like it's almost like the elevator pitch now is, what does a library not do?
Yeah.
Right.
What are we not doing? And then if we hear that, then we're like, okay, let's add that in. Let's figure out how we can do that.
Exactly. When you were talking about the elevator speech, Jen, my mind went to, what would I do in that situation? And I think from the community outreach perspective, I think what I would say to that person is, tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me a little bit about your family. And that sounds like kind of very therapeutic, like maybe counseling or something. But the reason I would ask that question is that, truly, no matter what the background of the person is or who they have in their family, our building has something to offer them. Our virtual storefront has something to offer them. And, my next point to them would be, so why pay for some of that stuff on your own? And meanwhile, you have a library card with the world open to you on that. So take advantage of that. Don't pay for some of those things. Come to us. My goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you don't even have to actually physically come to the library for some of them nowadays.
That's right.
Libby, Canopy, Hoopla.
Yep.
There's no...
Or even a reference question, Alex, you can go on to.
You can go on our
Go onto our website, go onto chat. Or, you actually can use a phone and call us too. So or email us, right? So we have all these points of access that hopefully somebody, no matter where they are in their life or their their economy or their age, they have a way to access us and the services we provide.
Exactly. That's an excellent point, Jen, about the library making sure that we are accessible, that we're open to everyone, no matter your ability, your age, or your location in the world. We learned that coming through COVID. We can help anyone from anywhere. Mm-hmm. And, our library is here for them. So that's the exciting point. That's like when our librarians put on their super capes and we do our best work. when people show up on whatever media they come to us on, and then ask us a question. So we're
and even going back to some basics of providing you with the best-selling books, right?
Yeah,
and movies.
Exactly.
We're still doing that feverishly all the time.
That's right.
And being a place for the community to congregate. There's the third place model where you have 3 places in your life that you should be comfortable: your home, your work, and your library. Luckily, we have something we can knock off 2 with 1 stone there. Yep. So making that library your third place, and Jonathan works hard with our community partners. All of the organizations that use our facilities for their meetings are, there's something happening pretty much every day. A meeting room is booked by community groups, by a scouting group. Where else would they go? Tutors. Where else are they going to go? When they need to help, they're here at the library helping the community students get through their homework and study for the SATs, So all of these things, when you look at them individually, you might be like, oh, that's great. But when you put them all together, it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, we do a lot. We offer a lot of services, but it only takes one of them to mean the world to somebody.
Exactly.
When I was in college, I just needed a quiet place I could go to do work. I couldn't do it with my 4 roommates in my tiny apartment. I just needed a quiet place with internet, That's all I needed. Yep. Now, as a parent, I just need a place I can take my kid for an hour to calm him down. He come here, he plays with some trucks, we read a book. That's a whole afternoon right there. That's great. There is a service. There's something here for everyone. I don't care what your age is.
Very true.
I don't care what your interests are. There's something here for everyone. We have the Seed Library.
Yes.
We have technology courses. I'm teaching kids how to make their own video games right now.
Right.
We had a class come in this morning. They were grabbing seeds for the class, the middle school right across the street. They're probably going to do some gardening program. I don't even know. They didn't ask.
We actually have a garden in our own backyard where we grow food, and we
goes into our
community, goes into our
little free
pantry.
food pantry. That's right. That's exactly right.
And even Alex, let's not we could start talking about it because it's going to be coming really soon, is the library's new makerspace. Hopefully within the next 2 months, the room will be complete. The technology lab is being transformed into the makery, the library's new makerspace, which Alex we'll have to drag him out of there. I think he'll be in there all the time if you're looking for him. And that's going to include some really great cutting edge technology for all of our patrons, from little kids to senior citizens. We're going to be having classes in there, and we'll have some of the stuff Alex is doing now. It'll be a much more conducive environment to create and learn about technology and art. And
I'm really excited. I'm really excited for it. And it's going to be a place for all ages. If you're a digital artist and you want to learn about Photoshop, come on in. We can help you out with that. If you want to make 3D modeling programs for a game you're designing, or you're an entrepreneur and you want to make a 3D prototype, we'll have 3D printers. Maybe someday down the line we'll have a laser engraver. You can start your own Etsy shop.
Exactly.
You can make a gift for Mother's Day. Engrave her photo on a plate. We'll have the Cricut machines. We'll have sewing machines. It's going to be a place you can go where you don't have to own all this expensive equipment. You can just come in with an idea, and there will be somebody there to help you have that idea become a reality.
Exactly.
love that. Now, who could have ever envisioned that?
Yeah.
10 years ago, even.
Very
that
true.
was a thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time I heard the word makerspace. It took me, I was like, what is a makerspace? Honestly, probably a solid year before I could even wrap my head around the concept, because it is such a new concept relative to our profession.
Exactly.
But now it's so commonplace in libraries that if you don't have a makerspace, people are like, where's your makerspace? It's kind of like it became, it used to be like, where's your bathroom? Then it became, where's your coffee machine? And where's your snack machine? And now it's like, where's your makerspace? So in libraries, like, okay, then we got to do that. So we're gonna take care of that. And that's exciting.
And that's so true, Jen. Libraries have truly become the place where you can grow. I mean, we're doing so much now in the realm of technology education, especially with this huge investment in what's coming out in the makery here. We're helping people start to grow their own personal skill set, especially with regard to technology. So we're adapting that way. From the community outreach office, who would have ever thought that we would have a social worker in our building who's facilitating a recovery group every Thursday night? That's life-changing for some people to come to a place that's safe. And our place actually isn't a physical place. Our recovery group is a virtual space. It's run on Zoom, and anyone can join our recovery group any Thursday night by clicking on any Thursday on our program calendar right off our website, and the link will open up, and there will be our social worker, and there will be a group full of people talking about any number of life issues that they're going through and working on the recovery process through that. So who would have ever thought, that we would be a place where you can grow technologically, and then we could be a place where you could grow personally and emotionally. And that's the exciting cutting edge stuff that's happening at the library.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the social services, the social worker rather.
Right.
I was listening to a TED Talk from a librarian a few weeks ago, and he was saying how the library has kind of become, it kind of fills the gap where other social services don't exist.
Yeah.
And before I listened to that, I always thought of the library as sort of like a safety net in a way, where a lot of people they have nowhere else to go to get an answer. And, there's a library in almost every town. So you can go there and somebody will, if not provide the answer you're looking for, at least get you on track so you can get to where you need to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
That used to be like the bread and butter of librarianship years ago. You check out books and you go there to ask, what's the capital of Uruguay or something, or where can I find the civil service department or something.
That's right.
But we're still doing that, and it's really fulfilling as a librarian to help somebody who that this is the end of the line for them. Like if you can't help them, like that's it. They're either just going to go on without ever getting that answer,
right,
or something. They might be in a worse off place if you can't get them to where they need to go. So when you can kind of turn them around and they leave a better.
And I know, Morgan, you wanted to say that. I just wanted to jump in so I don't forget to say this. And that really speaks to the importance of librarianship as a whole. that we all are trained professionals with master's degrees and understand how important it is to get correct, accurate, quick information to our patrons, especially some that are at high risk or need services quickly. And so thinking about the library as a safety net is kind of accurate, but it's almost like now you have to think of the library as a bridge, because we're bridging these people to their needs.
That's right.
And a lot of times that's outside of the library building, but that's fine because they would never be able to find the bridge to begin with if we weren't able to point that on them. And that's speaks to the training and the education and the continuing education. And, I think our staff here, the librarians here, are very avid learners. We've learned so much about them through this podcast alone, how interested they are in life learning. And, in addition to professional development, it really gives us a well-rounded, and I think the expertise is really important to emphasize that, the staff really is able to get you to where you need to go.
That's right. I mean,
just to piggyback off of that, like, I have been in situations as a reference librarian in my past where people are like, you are the last option. If you can't get me the information or get me a resource or in touch with somebody that can help me in my situation, like, I'm on the street or, I'm out of options. And it's high pressure. I mean, obviously, as an information professional, but it also feels very rewarding when you can deliver on that.
That's right.
And you can give them the time and care that they haven't been receiving the whole time until they come to you.
Right.
And I've always enjoyed that as someone that's been a public servant in multiple different capacities before I was a librarian, that there is like that gap. There's always going to be that gap between certain services that people are entitled to, but it's hard. There's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of lines. They might not necessarily understand how the process works, and they just need someone to take the time to explain it to them.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and that's our job. Part of our job is to have the understanding and the ability to explain it in a way that someone can understand and be like, okay, these are your next steps. This is how you can move forward with this. I mean, I've helped people with like all different types of things, like Section 8, like waitlist applications and stuff like that, where
job applications, right? When people aren't comfortable filling out an online job application.
Exactly.
I'm sure we've all done that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, or someone that's laid off that now you need a resume to apply for any job, and this particular person operated a forklift. That was his job. He had a license to do it, and he had gotten laid off, and he needed a resume in order to apply for any jobs, and he didn't know how to use a computer, and he was like, I don't have anyone that can help me. Can you help me? And then, we did like an appointment and sat down and got him set up and everything like that. But
well, think about all the services that Jonathan brings in, and we really are not claiming to be an expert on any of it, but we know how to get the expertise to our. So, for a perfect example is the veterans, how much information and resources are available to veterans that don't always take advantage of them. Money that's due to them, but they don't know.
Sure, services that they're not
services,
aware
health,
of.
mental health care.
Exactly.
So Jonathan really works closely with the veterans community to be certain that here we are at the library. He has tables, right, set up.
Absolutely. Like coming up, we have supportive services for veterans' families. They'll be here in May and June. And then we also have the Joseph P. Dwyer Project. And the Dwyer Project does amazing work with veterans that have experienced traumatic brain injuries and also emotional disorders as a result of being in combat. And, it's very exciting and it's truly rewarding when we can have these organizations that are so helpful right here in our lobby, right where the public comes in, so that when people come in, they can get help easily and quickly. And that's like what you were saying, Jen, connecting people with the experts. Like, we may not know the answers, but we know the people who know the answers, and we can get them here. Like, for instance, with our gentleman that we were speaking about just now that needed the resume. I mean, we have a career counselor that comes to us, believe it or not, through Long Island Cares, one of the largest food banks on Long Island. And we have a regular presence of a career and resume counselor here at the library. And that was done through a partnership with our food pantry. So, if we don't necessarily have the expert on our staff, we'll find one. and then we can get them to table here at the library. So it's exciting stuff.
We're the middleman.
Professional middlemen and women.
Middle people. Like.
So just to kind of tie it back to a question I posed initially, at least with the advancements of technology, why are libraries still relevant? So I think a lot of people think that technology is taking away the job of a librarian, when in fact it's enabling us to do more. We don't have to go search through the card catalog and then climb up a ladder to go find a book anymore. And zip zip, quick search, find the book, boom boom. So what are we doing with all that time that we're saving? We're offering more services.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you're not just sitting at your desk reading? I hear that a lot.
I just listen to podcasts. I'm doing research.
Listening to podcasts. They're just reading books. Yeah.
So I was going on our website today just to look, and under more services, the list just keeps going and going. And I was about to add another one to, if you want to book the podcast recording equipment,
right.
Just you can fill out a quick form and you can book the studio that we're recording this podcast in right now to record your own podcast.
Yeah.
And guess what? There's somebody on staff who has made a podcast and can help you and show you how to edit it. Oh, and we also teach classes on how to do that too. So the more time that we gain from these advances in technology, we're just doing more.
That's right.
So I think that's just an important key thing to take away.
And just the flip side, right, of technology is that there's a lot of consensus that, there's especially young adults and children, that they're spending too much face time and involved too much in technology. And now everybody's trying to pull back from technology in this aspect. And we offer that too, right? So you can come in and do a story time, and let's talk about children's a little bit, because they're not represented in the room, and we want to. They really are the cornerstone, the foundational cornerstone of our library users, because we get them young and we hope they become lifelong library users. And it's really how many kids were really affected by the pandemic of not being able to congregate, your toddlers and we did virtual story times and virtual get-togethers with the kids, but it's not the same. But now that we're back in person, how important that is for just kids to congregate, and even for young adults, teens that might not necessarily feel they fit in anywhere else. This is a place that they can feel safe. And
I didn't want to forget the teen department.
The teen department as well and I was a teen librarian, for most of my career. So they do hold a special place in my heart, and it's such a pivotal time in their lives to have a place where they can just be and find out about, a new interest, or maybe an old interest, but they didn't know how to act on it, and, learning about stuff. So it's really important to talk about that part too. It's not, as much, and I love technology. I love my phone. I love all of it, but it's really, that's not a big part of us, is just being a communal space and people to get together and be, even if you're not talking to the other person, there is something. Alex used to go to the library to study, a quiet place, but it's the environment that you can be in. Even if it was quiet, if there's another person studying at the table next to you, it's still some kind of communal feeling about that. So you don't really get that library feeling anywhere else but in a library. That I can't think of another place that you would get that feeling of. You never feel like you don't belong when you go into a library. Even if it's the first time you go into a library, you're like, okay, this is good. I feel like I know what to do here. Even if it's just sit at a table, it's great.
Yeah. And when you were talking about teen, Jen, one of the most beautiful things that I think that our teen department helps our community with is providing our community with so many community service opportunities through the teen department. What a great way to help our kids become community minded and kind of like good neighbor minded, that there are people that are in need all over the place, and how can they fit into that picture and be of help to somebody else in their community that's experiencing need. And our teen department just does such an amazing job, newsletter after newsletter, jam-packed with all sorts of community service opportunities. And that's exciting to see, for our kids, because we're helping raise them, to be a bit more, gracious in their mindset towards people around them. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And they feel welcome when they come into teen, you know? So that's exciting work that they're doing.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what does a librarian actually do? Like, what does your day-to-day job look like? All right, we are back. So we talked about all these great services and everything, but what does a librarian actually do if they're not just sitting around at a desk waiting for people to come up and ask them for the latest James Patterson book? What does a librarian actually do? So I already talked about it, hinted at it, at least in the beginning of the episode. We have many different departments. Each department is a little specialized in one area of what the library can offer. The children's department, obviously, they handle kids up to about preteen, fifth grade.
Yeah.
We don't have a representative from children's here, so maybe we can all talk about it a little bit. They do a lot of programming, probably 2 programs every morning at least. Everything from toddlers tango to an art class, crafting, story times, everything. And there's
Promoting
always
early literacy, that's a
that's a big part of it.
huge topic. Yeah, giving kids the chance to begin their literacy skills before school. Helping them enhance what they've learned in preschool and exploring that here at the library. Another beautiful thing that they do is just work with families, that come into the children's reference desk. And, there may be a myriad of issues that they entertain right at the service desk. There can be even things like, I'm having this issue as a parent. How do I find information on parenting my child through this particular issue? And so there's a whole parenting collection full of resources to help parents navigate all sorts of different life issues. And and they're so fast and they're so gracious down in children's to not let the patron feel like they have to explain everything out in front of everybody else that might be behind them at the reference desk. And so the children's librarian can negotiate what the need is so quickly and then say, what, I have just the right resource for you. Come on over this way. And they do beautiful work.
I was just going to say, the one thing that they do a lot more, a children's librarian will do a lot more than, and I'm an adult librarian, I work up in the adult floor, is reader's advisory.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Challenging
It's
when you're not a
extremely
children's.
intense.
Very, very. It's a lot because books come out a lot quicker. Obviously, they're shorter, but still, there's the volume compared to. And often they'll ask you if you work in children's. Something to do with the school curriculum matching up with, I don't even know what they call, like the
Lexile levels.
Lexile levels
and
and
Countess and Pinnell letters.
right. So that is something they have to stay on top of. And with the early literacy, just to circle back to what Jonathan said, the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program that we have here at the library, where we encourage children before they enter. It could start as early as birth, honestly. You're reading to your children and you just keep a log, and then you get this certificate and a little prize once you hit 1,000 books. But it's just encouraging reading together and your children, developing that love of books.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much they have to keep in their minds of managing their own collection. It's wild because in adult, everything's written for adults.
Right.
Children's has to worry about the reading level, which there are probably 10 levels or something like the Lexi levels.
It's every letter of the alphabet.
So A to Z.
And then Lexile is like hundreds to thousands, but that goes through high school Lexile.
But
So
still,
does
not
this.
only
Tremendous.
do they have to manage subject matter, but they have to know the reading level.
Yeah.
And then most of the time, a kid can't even phrase what it is they're looking for. An adult will come and say, I'm looking for a mystery novel that has a female protagonist. That's okay. Those are some keywords I know I can look for. A kid will come in and be like, well, it's got this truck and it has a blue cover, but the children's librarian will know.
They know.
You're talking about little blue.
Right.
Yeah.
And even with the picture books, which are a whole entity upon, and those are so much more complex than people. You think it's a picture book. But there's so much put into the artwork and the way that the words are printed, the colors, all of these are helping child development, and it's a lot for a children's librarian to know, and with such ease that they deliver is just remarkable. So kudos to that department. I just wanted to say with teens, somewhat similar. One of the things you run into as a teen librarian is the reluctant reader, which I hate that phrase, but it is a real thing, especially sometimes you'll have teen burnout of they've got so much homework and they have so much reading to do for school that maybe an earlier love for reading starts to dissipate in the teen years. And as a librarian, you have to try to reignite that, the love of reading, and how it can be such an important part of your life for good mental health, for education, for socialization, so many things that being a good reader can bring you. So one of my tricks, and you're going to laugh at this, Alex, because you know I'm not a video gamer, but when I was a teen librarian, if I had usually a young boy, middle school boy, and he had to read a book for school, or a summer reading was usually the thing. Had to read 3 books for summer, and he would come in with his mom. This is like many times, and the mom would say, my son needs to read a book, and she would do all the talking, and I'd say, okay, can I, all the talking, and he would just be standing there, or she would just be standing there, and I was like, separate the parent from the child, just so I could maybe get something about what they like. So my first question always was, look, what video games are you playing? So fortunately at the time, my son was a teenager, so I had some knowledge of what video games were.
There we go.
It was just, and it really was just an icebreaker to they were surprised I would ask that question. Probably not so much now, but back then, it was like, oh, okay. And some of the games I knew was just sort of just connecting the kid to the right book, or, it was always like, well, what kind of books? I want a short book. It has to be under 100 pages was like a big request, like short with big letters. And, teens are very tricky, and they know how to work the system of reading. But a bit, just getting them onto a series so that I knew if I could hook them into the first book, it would, they'd come back for the second book and the third book. And I used to keep little lists of books that I had given particular patrons, teen patrons. I had them on little Post-its behind my desk so I could remember. So that when they came back, I would say, hey, Billy, how was whatever that book was?
Oh, that's great.
And it was, they really, felt like I mattered to them. They did matter to me. But I maybe couldn't naturally remember all those books. So I would write them down. And then they felt like somebody cared about what they were doing. So teens is even more complexity in a different way than children's of dealing with that age group and their specific needs.
Yeah, reigniting the love of reading for pleasure as opposed to reading for
it's tricky
work.
Because sometimes it's really, I don't want to read I'm done. I don't want to read. It's boring. So it's this, true. So and even turning them onto audiobooks was a big, now that at that time we really didn't have the podcast and, all of the things, the resources we have now. But I remember saying, you could play these. We had a lot of CD audiobooks. I'm like, you can play these in your PlayStation or whatever it was that. And they were like, what? And I was like, I know you have one in your room. So why don't, because most of everybody had one. So that was another way. And also, and I encourage this to this day to anybody. I don't care if you were a child or a teen, an adult, a senior. Reading together with somebody and somebody reading aloud to you is a magical thing. And I would often read to my son, even as a young adult, because it was a way for us to read together. I knew what he was reading, so we could talk about the book. If we were going on a car trip, I wasn't driving. I would read. As a passenger, read to him, and I would put on the voices, and we have we'll still talk about the memories. Remember that book, The Contender? When I read that, and I did all the sound effects. But it's a bonding experience, and it's another good parents of teens are concerned about what their children are reading. And why, when they were a child, you probably read the books because it took you 5 minutes and you knew exactly, but don't stop doing that. Keep reading with your kids and share. It's just such a great way to case in communication with your young adults. So I'll get off my soapbox.
So we've talked a lot about Reader's Advisory. That's just one aspect of what a librarian does. We're not just telling you where to find a book or what book you should read next. We teach programs. Children's does a lot of great programs. Teen does programs for teens. I do programs for everyone, teens and adults. So that's, at least me personally speaking, programming is a big part of my job. I think I do at least 1 or 2 programs a week, anywhere between 10 and 12 a newsletter. So I'm always trying to offer new things. We still have the hits. People still need to know how to use Microsoft Office. People still need to know how to use a computer. Yeah. Everyone could always use a refresher. But I'm always trying to offer new things, trying to highlight new technologies when I can. I did a class on AI artwork recently. I'm going to do another one next newsletter. I'm trying to teach classes on things that you might be interested in, you want to develop a little bit more, audio editing, photo editing, video editing. Everyone wants to have a YouTube channel these days. Everyone thinks they're an influencer. Why not make your content look a little bit nicer?
That's right.
So I'm trying to offer things like that. But we do trips, we do tours, we do lectures, we do concerts. Help me out.
So let's talk about Morgan a little bit about what you're doing at the front desk. That would be interesting because you're not necessarily teaching classes. I know you have in the past.
Yeah.
But, some people, they never make it past the front desk, right? So, so what's happening down there? Because we're kind of up here and you guys are down there. So I'm interested to hear
in our
your
little,
perspective, right?
A little world of circulation and tech. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. There is a lot that goes on in that department, and there's a lot that I'm involved in on the daily. So aside from running circulation and tech, I also manage the social media. So I coordinate with a team of people in the library, and we work together to create content for each department and for large events and stuff like that. Alex has been involved in that with FanFest and all that stuff. And that's something that I do. I'll come up with ideas. I'll collaborate with my colleagues, and we'll create content and post it on social media. I'm behind the promo posts for the podcast, so I'm always infiltrating everybody who maybe have thwarted me in the past with wanting to be on camera, but I've gotten them. So that's one of the things, and people don't realize how time consuming being a content creator can be, and that's just a small aspect of my daily toils. So.
And that's like a non-negotiable now, where again, 20 years ago, social media wasn't around or was in its infancy, and now it's an integral part of promotion, and a lot of people get their information about the library just simply from Facebook or Instagram, and not even our website or our newsletter, which are still really important tools, but using the social media as a way to get the message out and information to the community is really, it's a non-negotiable. It's really important that we have a good coordinator with Morgan getting our messaging out.
Library awareness is going to only become more important as we go forward. So I would not be surprised if every library in the near future had someone whose sole job is social media
content coordinator. It's a lot.
It is. Yeah, it's a full-time job in and of itself. Yeah. But we all have to wear multiple hats in this kind of field. So I happily do it, and I love it. And I also coordinate with the full-timer in my department. We do museum passes, and I coordinate with discount tickets. So we offer discounted tickets to patrons to go to the Long Island Aquarium, Museum of Natural History, Long Island Science Center, and then we offer a bunch of museum passes that can be checked out, printed off, just displayed on your phone, to go to a bunch of museums around the island. We do offer the Empire Pass, and you could take that to parks upstate and things like that to go hiking if you wanted to go on a day trip. And I coordinate the discount passes and stuff like that with the people that run them. I'm currently working with Cresley and Viking Fleet out in Montauk Point for whale watching tickets for discount that are going to be offered soon. It's going to be exclusive to Sayville Library and our patrons to start, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm super excited to have that opportunity.
New service coming your way. That's
service.
Breaking news, everyone. Breaking
Alert.
news. Whale watching is happening for Sayville this summer.
It's a between the shelves exclusive.
Yeah.
You heard it first here.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm involved in outside events. I help Jonathan with the farmers market.
That's right.
I've made library cards for patrons off-site. Also, just someone to ask questions. People come up to the library at events and they're like, can you tell me about this? Or I'm having this issue with this account. I troubleshoot patron accounts all the time. If they're having issues with Libby, if they're having issues with other apps, for the most part, usually it's Libby access and things like that. But I'll sit down with the patron and give them a tutorial. I know Alex probably does that all the time up in adults as well, but it's a skill. It's a skill to be able to sit down with somebody that they're like, I don't know what's happening, but this is just not working. Can you figure it out?
Yeah. I wanted to actually mention that in our last segment, it's not always people who are coming to you desperate because they need some kind of social service.
Right.
Sometimes they just need help because they can't have a tech question answered.
Right.
And
they can't figure out how to download the book or open a document.
Right. It could be something as, an email trouble or more complicated, but, you're the only other place you can go if you don't have, a niece or a nephew who knows how to do this thing, or a son or a spouse or something. You got to go to Best Buy. You got to call the Geek Squad. You're out $100.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And it's a lot. I enjoy it. I love troubleshooting that stuff because sometimes it's a little more complex than it should be, but a lot of times I just enjoy explaining it. I like seeing people be excited that they understand it and they're like, oh, it's that easy? I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I was
and
like, don't
sometimes
play it
you
up
even
in your
learn
head.
something new too,
Yeah,
right? Like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. And you're almost like a low-key life coach, especially with people that are hesitant and they're like, but I really want the audiobook. Or how Overdrive is gonna go away for all of you Overdrive lovers. Libby is gonna be the only app starting in a couple months.
Right.
Won't be able to use Overdrive
No more
anymore.
Overdrive app, everybody.
But so
Switch
many-
over to Libby.
Yeah. It's finally happening for reals. And I think that people come in and they're hesitant to use it. They don't know how, and they just get played up in their head about it. And you're kind of like, go life coach mode. And you're like, you got this. Like, you can do this.
Yeah, it's just a little support, right?
Yeah, like, I know you can do this. Like, this is not complicated. Like, what do you do for work? And then they're like, oh, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
You definitely got this. And I think that, that's another fun aspect of something that I still do daily. I also do, like, a lot of staff support stuff where I do balance breaks. So I do walks outside, meditation sessions, and stretching sessions for, like, office-friendly stuff for staff. And I think that's huge because, we support our communities, but we also need to support ourselves so that we don't get burnt out.
Very true.
Yeah. And I think that's, like, a valuable thing. I'm also involved in sustainability, so...
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because our assistant director, Tim, isn't here, but he's our head sustainable guy.
Yeah.
But that's another thing we're going to be coming this spring, is a little native garden will be with the help of our partners at the Rotary.
At the Save
and
Rotary
the Save
Club, yes,
Garden Club
exactly.
have contributed funds
Garden
to the
Club,
creation, and the Garden Club, right?
Yeah.
We'll be creating a native garden meadow in the front of the library, which is very exciting, and it's just showing that we take sustainability seriously, and we want to be an example to the community of how you can enact small little acts of sustainability that will make a big difference, in the long run.
Yeah, and it's nice to see how engaged our community is in that.
Yeah, we've been collecting soft plastics, so once we get to 500 pounds, we'll get a free Trek bench. You might have heard about it already. It's been in our newsletter, and I think somebody mentioned it but we have... Every day, those bins are full of people, and it's just so wonderful to see patrons walking in, stopping in before they go to work, just dropping off a garbage bag of plastic, so that contributing to the efforts. And, each week it's just amazing. I don't know what number we're up to, but I know we're
200. We just passed
200 pounds. I mean, think about how much plastic that is that we're being able to recycle just here in our library. It's great. Before you talk, Jonathan, I just want to say, because it's interesting with the work that Morgan's doing, sometimes it does overlap with Jonathan's work in community outreach. And they work really well together, which is really nice. And as a library director, just talking a little bit, because I was a librarian, I still consider myself a librarian, but obviously I wear a different hat now. And it's just so wonderful. One of the things I like to do is try to give as much autonomy to the professional librarians here as possible, and it's also important to find out what they're interested in, right? So Alex, we talked about that in your interview. Like, what are you into? Like, we want the right person to be in the right job. So if they're doing something they're actually interested in, they're going to be excited about it, and it's just going to keep growing. And so it's very important for me to hear from my staff what they care about, because we all have our daily tasks that we have to do that are work, right? But if we care about it, and it's so nice to see how everything sort of kind of overlaps. Like, sometimes you're working with Alex because you're making video content, but then you're at the farmer's market with Jonathan because doing outreach, right?
Exactly right.
So it's or you could be working with teens doing community service.
Absolutely.
Coming up with a project for them.
Special project.
So it just really is a team effort all the way around, and everybody's just super passionate about their work here. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, so because it always just amazes me to see how you've all developed into your roles, and how wonderful we all work together. It's great.
Yeah, and I really enjoy being able to bring like a librarian perspective down to the circulation department.
Right.
Because sometimes like I can start the conversation with a patron that might be in need, that might benefit from seeing Jonathan or one of the social workers.
That's right.
I can head them off and start the conversation with
Exactly.
that. Or someone has a more in-depth question and maybe they don't look like they're going to make it up to adult services, and they just don't look like they can make it up the stairs, the elevator. It might just be a rough day for them and they're like, I don't know. Or they just want to pop in, and if I'm like, oh, go upstairs, you can get more information, they're like, I'm just going to go.
Right.
Where I can easily, depending on what it is, I can answer the question, and I'm like, hey, like, here's some information. Like, maybe next time when you stop in, you can go upstairs and you can get like more in-depth stuff. Or if you want to explore it on the computer, we have the software, we have the materials that you need. And I also see stuff like, we had a patron, so there are a couple patrons that I noticed that I think they're going for their captain's license. So I see them come in, giant tubes with a giant map on it, and they're like at a table in the study room studying, because we have like the good sized tables for that.
Right.
And I noticed when I had walked outside that there was a tube in the parking lot, and then one of them came down like in a, they're like, oh my God, where's my map? Because I know like that's like a huge thing, you can't lose that.
Right.
And I think that's fun too. Like I get to interact with the public.
Yeah, like when are we ever going to meet somebody who's going for their captain license? Like if you're not selling yourself, right? It's
and
interesting.
Like, yeah,
I meet people from all walks of life.
Yeah, and I feel like you get to experience like that different stuff. And then I do work on the reference desk once a week and the occasional weekends. And recently we had a patron. He came in, and the clerk that was working told the guy he had to wait for me because it was a deep reference question. And I got so excited, and he was like, I'm so sorry to imposing you. I was like, no, I live for this. But he was researching, I'll go into it later, and when we talk about it.
I think this would be great to go right into it.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into to reference questions.
Nice. Exciting.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're back. So Morgan, you kind of teed us up for the next segment.
I sure did.
We're going to be talking about some of our favorite or most interesting reference questions we've gotten while working on the desk. Morgan, we already interrupted you, so why don't you continue with your story? You can lead us off.
Yeah, so going back to that weekend that I was working on the reference desk a couple weeks ago, we had a patron come in with a deep reference question. My favorite kind of question, because they don't come too often, but when they do, it's really fun and exciting. So he was telling me this kind of information, you need a librarian to find it. You're not going to come across it by yourself unless you're experienced in doing any kind of research and you know where to look. So pretty much he came in, and his question was, I went to a lecture at the Maritime Museum, and they were talking about a boat that had capsized off of Montauk in the 50s called the Pelican. And he wanted to know where the boat ended up being dry docked for the next, 30 years.
Wow.
Until it was thrown away, essentially. Mm-hmm. So he was talking to me about a specific Newsday article that was published in the 80s, he believed. He didn't have the author information, so I couldn't locate that exact article, but we do have through Library Newsday archives, so I could go back in there and I could start my search. So I'm like Pelican, boat, whatever. And he's giving me more information, but he did have a lot of pertinent information, dates, the name of the vessel, where it was, and then we're figuring out where it went. So I came across all these articles. So pretty much the Pelican capsizing off of Montauk, it was a party fishing boat. It had a capacity for 20 people. It had 65 on it.
Oh my
It went down. I think only 45 people survived.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a catastrophe. There was a huge lawsuit involved. The captain went down with his ship. It was this whole thing.
Whoa.
Wow.
So that actually spearheaded a lot of the boat safety laws that we have today, which is really cool. So it makes sense why they're talking about it. But I didn't realize how big in the news it was at the time. So I'm going through articles. I'm getting little bits and pieces of information. The story's changes a little bit, the amount of people that, the amount of victims, all this stuff. Where the boat, they kept saying like it was in a location, like just...
But not naming the location.
Yeah.
Right, which is what you were trying to get at.
Yeah. So I'm like, he's like, we're so close. Like, it's somewhere. And I'm like, I know. And so I think like 3 or 4 articles in, I finally found it. So the boat had been taken pretty much by the Coast Guard immediately over to Greenport. And it was dry docked there in a shipyard. And then we got the name of the shipyard, and I forget the name of it, but it was like Sweet something. So then you have to think, okay, where is that location today? Because it doesn't exist anymore. So then you can start to like go into things like there's another resource that I like to use when I'm doing real estate research for people that's like the Sanborn fire insurance maps. And the database is pretty decent. I couldn't get the time period that I was looking for, but you can see, like, it's not going to change so much from probably the early 1900s to the 50s out that far.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see, like, where the shipyard was. And then we had found that it developed into a condominium. And when the condominium company purchased that property, that's when the boat got tossed.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was that? What year was that?
The 80s.
90s. So it was there for 30 years.
Yeah, so the boat was just sitting there, just rotting away. And... yeah, so it was like really interesting because that was about an hour's worth of pouring through articles, learning about the story, more about the story, getting more information about the families involved and the lawsuits that ensued from this. And,
Wow.
And the legislation that came from it.
Yeah,
like I was like, wow,
so
this is a very pivotal moment for the boating community, especially on Long Island and in New York State. So, yeah, I had a really good time with that. And I used to work in a city library, so I used to do a lot of microfilm, like going back into old, like, New York Times Sunday stuff.
The archives.
Yeah. I used to manage that collection. It was so much fun. I go into old city directories, and a lot of people don't, or maybe some people remember, but I didn't know that, like, phone numbers used to have letters in them, and they were only, like, 6 digits long or something like that, and in a city directory in the beginning, you could look up someone's name and then you can see what they did for a living and where they worked. And then you'd go
like
to
a
the
census
second.
almost.
That's interesting.
And then you go to the second half and they have their address, who they were married to, and
wow, sounds like early version of the internet.
Yeah, it's like and I was like, wow, this is very like
robust information.
Yeah, like I'm like, wow, you could really stalk somebody. Like,
right? Wow.
You could know where they were. Like, you just get this book, or go to the library and look at it. But it was really, it's really interesting, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But it was very cool to hear a patron be like, I could not get this information without you, and most people could not get that. So yeah, it was
a good day.
It's a good time. So that's I have others, but I'll let someone else go.
Reference All-Star. That was a great one.
Yeah, that was seriously. Oh my goodness.
Story.
I think one of the things that has been one of the questions, and it's recent, but this one will stand out in my mind for a very long time. I had a patron come in, and they were coming in for someone in their family, and they needed recovery help. And it was just a really poignant time where someone came to the library and felt comfortable enough to really share some details of the backstory of their life and their family's life, and how to seek some help. And that was one of the most rewarding things that I could have ever done, was to provide them with a whole sheet of resources of where to get help on a few different life issues. And I knew that was going to go back home, and it was going to make a difference in someone's recovery and in their life. So that was really exciting, and I'm being vague on the details because I need to be, but that's what's so exciting about what we do. Like, we're truly impacting people's lives, for the good. And then another question that I had came from, believe it or not, a community group, because a lot of my job is involved in going out to community groups and listening in their meetings and finding out what their needs are. And there was a particular group that needed a workshop on grief resources. And so we created a program on grief during the holidays, and really helpful for the patrons that attended that. And then out of that, someone had a question about, I used to cook for a family and now I'm just cooking for one. And I don't know how to cook for one. I'm used to cooking for a family. And how do I do that in a healthy way without just buying processed stuff all the time? And so they wanted to know where they could get info on that. And I said, I have a network of people that I could turn to. And just through community outreach contacts, I was able to go to Northwell Health. And the dietitians at Northwell Health at South Shore University Hospital picked up on that request and said, we can absolutely do a program on healthy eating for one. And we'd be happy to come to the library to do it. And we literally just had that program this past week. We had 17 people there. And
That's great, Jonathan.
yeah, the chefs from the hospital were there, and they were excited. And then the registered dietitian was there from Southside, from the South Shore University Hospital, answering all sorts of questions on how to prepare something healthy without having to make a ton of it, and how to find small portions and do it quick and easy. And that helps people live a healthier life. When they can cook something quickly that's healthy for them, they're going to follow through with it. And that was just exciting. And that all came from a grief workshop.
And it turned into this really great workshop for so many people in the community.
And there's a part 2 for that workshop coming up on April 10th, so make sure you sign up now for that one.
It's up people that don't like leftovers.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I don't like leftovers.
And thank you, Northwell.
I know.
That's great.
Oh boy, I almost wanted to skip me now because I had a silly one, and everyone else is so
You
hard.
could be silly. Silly's cool.
We need a little silliness.
That's
I have a follow-up silly one to your silly one. So.
Everybody's going to talk about the silly question, so go ahead.
All right, well here's mine. Okay, so someone came up. This was my first year as a librarian, and I was alone at the desk. I shouldn't have been alone at the desk. That's how new I was.
Not at this library.
No, not this library. No,
okay.
Never.
Jen would not let that fly.
Okay.
This man came up to me and he said, "I'd like to win the New York lottery. How do I do that?" And
What did you say? Please tell me you know the answer.
of course I know the answer. So I said, "Give me a minute."
Get right, stand by.
So first I think I'm being pranked. I'm looking around for the librarians hiding behind the ferns laughing at me. So I go to the New York Lottery website and I'm pouring through their annual reports, trying to get any information I can give this guy, because he's just standing there staring at me straight faced.
Serious as all get out.
I'm reading their annual reports. They're not giving me any winning ratios or anything I can go off of. I'm like, oh god. But I see in fine print on page 47 or something, all of our winning numbers and all the totals, everything we have to report to the state because it has to be taxed and everything. So it goes to the New York State Lottery Commission.
Oh, right. Okay.
So the New York State Lottery Commission has to track all winnings, the locations, and the businesses of where those winnings take place.
Ooh.
So I go onto newyork.data.gov, go through all their data. They have 1 million databases. You can only imagine how much they're tracking. So I find I find all this information. I download all the spreadsheets. They're hundreds of pages long, and I run lists, sorting lists in the Excel spreadsheet to find out what are the most common winning combinations of numbers.
You are too much.
And I find out what zip codes have the most winning per capita.
Okay, so you're trying to really give him the best odds.
I'm trying to give him the best odds. And I even found out what scratch-offs have the highest winning per month dollar spent on the tickets. So for all of our Between the Shelves listeners, you're going to get a scoop. If you want to win on a scratch-off, the winning ones are the Instant Take 5s, the $2 and the $10 tickets.
Okay.
Those are
the highest winning,
odds.
highest odds, okay?
I can't help you with winning numbers. I'll have to pull that information again. But you'll have to come to the reference desk and ask, and I'll have to do all this work again.
I think very thankful. Or what was his response to all of this information?
He just said thank you and left him.
No, he did. He was that just personality. I think he was just this is the data I was looking for. Goodbye, and
We never saw him again because he's
he probably won. Yeah, he's trying his yacht right now.
You should have requested payment. I should receive about 25% of your winnings. Should you win? Based off my information.
Alex, that's so impressive. I don't know any other librarian that would probably have taken that track on that question, and I'm so happy you did because it's actually really interesting, the facts that you found. So I just wanted to mention a fact before I tell my little story. So last year, the Save the Library answered 21,701 reference questions. Wow. So that's a lot. We call them reference transactions, but we do tally. We love statistics in the library, so we keep track of everything. So I just want to say that number again, 21,701 reference questions for the entire library for the last year. So that being said, you guys are working hard. I haven't been a reference librarian for nearly 10 years, as I mentioned, so I couldn't really remember a specific question. I'm sure there were many, I just don't remember. But I do remember one particular encounter with who will be my forever favorite patron, Leo from the West Islip Library when I worked there as an adult/teen librarian. So Leo was an elderly gentleman. I think he was 90 plus. And he was a widower, and he would come into the library and play chess on online computer, just pretty much every day, all day, as often as he could. He lived alone. He was an immigrant, and I think he was Ukrainian, if I'm remembering correctly. So his English wasn't the best, and he was extremely hard of hearing. So to visualize Leo, he looked like the guy from the movie Up. And I know you've probably heard that before, but that's what Leo looked like. He was just really this sweet little elderly man. So I always kind of had an eye on him when he would come in. And, I'd always if he wanted to read the paper, I'd put it aside for him. But he didn't really talk a lot. His English was difficult, but it really more the hearing was problematic for him to hear me. So when I think it was Christmas came and he was in the library and I was like, he's not going to get any gifts. I was just started getting really sentimental. I'm like, this guy is all alone. So I just bought him the tiniest box of chocolates because ones I was giving to my colleagues for a little Christmas, a little stocking stuffer. It was probably 3 Hershey Kisses. So I just slid in front of him and he was like, no. And I said, no, it's for you. And then the next day, I get very emotional because it was I really cared about this guy. He came back the next day and he had a gift for me. And he had gone through the house and just took things that were sentimental things for him and that were his wife's that he brought me. One was a little candle and there was a little tiny window stained glass thing that you can hang up in the window. And then the best prize in the box was a bowling trophy. From 1970 something, a women's bowling tournament that his wife had won this bowling tournament, and it kind of looked like a candy dish. So I still have that bowling. I'll bring it in to show you guys. Maybe I'll take a picture of it. You can put it on the podcast.
That's great.
And he gave me that, and I was so from then on out, we became we friends, right? We're this friend. He would always come make sure he said hello to me, goodbye. When the spring came, he brought me daffodils every week from his garden and put them on the reference desk. And then I got a new job, and I knew I was going to have to be leaving. So his vision was also really bad. So I was I have to tell Leo I'm going. So I wrote him a letter just saying, Leo, I got a new job. I'm going to be a library director in another library, and it was wonderful to get to know you and serve you. And I wrote it in really big print, and I couldn't even face him because I just loved him, and I was so sad. So I just left it for him. And I gave him my email because I knew he knew how to email because he was playing Yahoo chess or something. So I knew he knew how to do So I left, started my new job a couple of weeks later, and he had asked the librarians at West Islip, when is our first day? And so on my first day of work, he emailed me and sent me this beautiful supportive, encouraging, you're going to be so great at this job. So we became little pen pals for the next few years.
Goodness.
And eventually Leo did pass away, and it was sad, but it was just one of those things that, it was really simple, very uncomplicated relationship. And sometimes we all have those patrons that kind of touch us in a certain way. And I love that guy. He was awesome. And a lot of my friends who are listening to this will remember my stories of Leo because we had a couple of other ones. But that's my little anecdotal story of why I love working in libraries.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's great. Best job I've ever had. We'll say that.
Yeah, same.
I feel like working with the public is such a rewarding and interesting space to work in because not everybody works with the public, but
It's a
you get a
gift.
little bit of everything, and you learn that people are so different and exciting and interesting, and there's so much that you can learn from other people that are different from you. If you and I feel like working with the public has given me that, where if I had a different had been in a different field or a different job or something like that, like you're just surrounded by kind of the same or more of the same or similar things like that, where you would have never met someone like Leo who impacted your life
Right.
in such a meaningful way and a simple way. If you
It's good to
if you
be.
didn't work in the
It's good to
public
be out of
setting.
your bubble.
Yeah.
It's good to be in a place where you're not entirely comfortable all the time because you get to learn new things and you get a
Right,
better.
let's look at the 4 people sitting in this room. I don't know a lot of occasions where we're all from such different backgrounds, aside from being librarians, right? We're all really different demographics and ages, and yet we all have, I would consider, friendship and, real fellowship with our staff and with our community,
Absolutely.
right? And that's
Yes.
what really
Yes.
helps us
Yeah,
propel us
exactly.
forward. It's great.
What a nice sentiment to end the podcast on.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Love you guys.
We're the best. You're the best.
We love what we do.
Yeah, thank you for listening to our listeners. And if this was, again, just something to close on, this was from the TED Talk that I mentioned. I'll link to it in the show notes. But he said the best way to support a library is if you're coming to a program, come a little bit early and walk around, see what's going on. Take a friend to the library. Tell somebody about your experience at the library. Because the more exposure people have to the library, the more they love it. Anyone who comes here becomes an instant convert to how great the library is. So
Absolutely.
spread the love.
Spread the word.
Spread the news.
Very true words. Very true words.
That's all we got. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Bye.
Alex.